and gentlemen, let's call ourselves together for the final session of the morning. I'm Paul Collier. I'm an economist here at the Blavatnik School. My instructions from Nairi are to summarize the morning in not more than 2 minutes and hand over to Tarek. So here's the 2-minute version of the morning. Right? If you start from a crisis of trust, which is where we started, I think the first port of call is humility, which doesn't come naturally to my subject, economics, but and from humility, the next step is pragmatism. If we really don't know what we're doing, we better own up to that and try various things and evaluate them. Globalization, for the last 30 years, my subject, economics, has said globalization's great because it's Pareto efficient. That's true, but what Pareto efficiency means is that the people who gain could compensate the people who lose, and everybody could be better off. And my profession stopped there. It never thought, oh, well, unless they do compensate, Pareto efficiency is nothing optimal about it whatsoever. Right? And so we dropped the ball on compensation. Now, what does compensation mean? And economics has had this utterly shriveled view of what it means to be a human being. We've shriveled everything. The only role that human beings are permitted in economics is to be consumers, right? We're basically greedy little bastards, right? And that is such an inadequate view of what it is to be a human person, right? Humans value states of being, and they value activity. And that's what we need to get back to. What are the vital states of being that really matter to people and where we've just dropped the ball? One is a sense of respect, right? And a second is a sense of belonging. So we need to get back to policies, environments which deliver respect and belonging to everybody in a society. What activities do people care about? Certainly not just consumption. Work. Work is one of the key things that brings people a sense of purpose. And a sense of purpose, I think, is actually what really summarized the morning. We had 2 parallel sessions, and in one, the session on firms, the central message of that was firms have lost a sense of purpose. Profit cannot be purpose. Profit is a constraint on the delivery of purpose. Right? Purpose for firms is to deliver benefits for society, subject to that constraint that they do it in an efficient way and therefore make a profit, which is the profit makes it all sustainable. Yeah? That was for firms, and we had a variety of suggestions in that session on what it would mean for firms to rediscover purpose, shifting ownership and so on. And then in the sense of purpose needs to be delivered also by governments. So finally, governments need to deliver on narratives that enable ordinary people to get a sense of purpose, both through work and through participation. I'll close with a memory of my father in retirement. And I was rich and he was poor. I was trying to give him money. And he said, no, I don't just want to consume, I want to be a player. And that's what government has not delivered to millions of people. On that note, I hand over to Tarek, Mansour, McKinsey. Tarek.
Thank you.
It's the study of disequilibrium.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to do 2 impossible things, not one. One is try to keep you interested for a few minutes before lunch. And the second, try to make technology work when you want it to work. Let's see how the odds are. I've had the pleasure to meet some of you. I'm Tarek Mansour. I'm with McKinsey and Company. One of the topics that many of us are getting quite deep into is this notion that there's a great disequilibrium in the world today. We can frame it in a number of ways. We've heard many of them this morning, but to give you a few more, obviously the wealth that is being generated by some is met by the lack of wealth by others. So we heard a lot of statistics this morning. One to add to it is if you added the value of the top 10 companies in the world, it's about $285 trillion. If you compared that to the bottom 180 countries in the world, it's actually more than the bottom 80 countries in the world. The role of company versus government is a sense of disequilibrium. That distribution of wealth is a disequilibrium. If you thought about the potential of technology and the potential of innovation and science to create good and to create improvement and wealth relative to the stagnation in the world today, at least in the last 10 years of flat productivity improvement, that's another disequilibrium. If you looked at within certain, obviously we talked a lot this morning that within borders there are disequilibriums, across borders there are disequilibriums. At the basic premise of it, and we debated this a little bit this morning, there's a feeling that what is possible with what we have is not being met by actually what is desirable and needed in a number of situations. So we're going to try to experiment together, and because we're nowhere near pretending that we actually have any answers on this or the main answers, and because we feel this is a problem that is greater than any one institution can solve, we're going to try something together, which is we're going to get your voice into the experiment. So the first thing is that okay? Are we excited to do it? Yes? Okay. So the first thing is you need to get on this platform. If you go to the website, slido.com, and just log into that system, and that'll be our platform for the next 5 minutes of just interactive questions. The first question I'm going to ask is the difficult ones for some of us to answer, which is, where are you from? If you would use that platform just to test it and answer the question of where are you from. Anyone has questions or problems about the platform itself of how to get on? There's a choice of McKinsey session is the instruction we're getting from Natalie. Thank you. The top one. Brazil is big in size and in presence.
That's because they know how to get on the website.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So just to keep us moving towards lunch, you've heard a lot this morning of different framing of this disequilibrium that we're living, or the sense of disequilibrium that we're living. According to you, what are other examples of disequilibriums that you've been thinking about and observing in your own institutions, societies, communities? Increase in market power, racism, racial disequilibrium, migration. Interesting. Gender, continued gap, yeah. Just, we're collecting all of this, obviously, in the background, so this is super helpful. Okay, shall we move on? People had a chance to input? Okay, so question number 2, or number 3, but 2 that is for this exercise. So in 2 or 3 words, we're going to build a word cloud together, but if you wrote your thought about what are the leading causes of the disequilibrium that you've just inputted. Leading causes, 2 or 3 words. Money in politics, profit motives, technology, returns, politics, political, the largest one. Political globalization, that's an interesting one to dive into. Corruption, Stick a few more on this. Politics is in the lead. And corruption. Okay, taxation was there also. Okay, so which of the two following options could be true as you look forward? One is, this is normal, it is natural. We've lived through cycles before, we just have to let it ride. Okay, let it ride for the non-American educated, is just kind of let it go and it will evolve into something that will reach equilibrium again. The second is, we need to intervene, and all participants in society need to intervene to actually accelerate reaching that equilibrium. "69 answers, and we're at 93% that we need to intervene. This is huge. Okay, any more input? Okay, since we all think we must intervene, sorry, thank you. Since the majority thinks must intervene, we will have 2 sessions now. No. But for those who said we must intervene, I'm going to just rapid 4 questions. So question number 1 is, what are the levers, or what is the role of the government to intervene? What could the government do?
No answers yet.
'Democratized rules must be fair. Fund contraception, regulation. Amazing. Citizen engagement, my favorite. Higher taxation. Okay, super. Tax reform. Okay, related to this, what should employers do? What could employers do? So the private sector, corporations. Creating jobs, new social contract with workers. We talked a lot about long-term investing, adjusting to modern times. Any more? Okay, good. This is a great segue to the next one, which is what should or could civic society do? Radical protest. Participate. Civic society, okay? Engagement, tolerance. Bridging, yeah, tolerance, bridging. So dialogue, lots of themes around dialogue, more dialogue. Okay, and then the last small question is, you can apply this to yourself, or you can be applied to individuals, others, but what should individuals do? If there was one thing that individuals should do, what could they do? What would you do? Clarify needs. Interesting. Respect, contribute. Super. So just take a couple of reactions and comments from you guys. What have some of the answers that you've seen, which ones have struck you? And please.
Actually, I'm probably loud enough.
Yes, please go ahead. Well, I don't know if you're loud, but we can hear you.
For the people who believe in capitalism and free markets, most people seem to think that government isn't being hard enough on companies.
Okay.
That which is surprising, I think.
People agree with that? Okay, other observations? Please.
I was struck by the identity. A lot more people put their identity as being from London than from the UK or England. I didn't see enough Europe there, but I think that's pointing to both strengths and weaknesses in our society.
Point of identity, yeah. Where you're from, what you do. Okay, other thoughts? Any reactions to what you saw? Please.
I think I was struck by the level of anti-establishment in the comments. I mean, this is one of the most establishment rooms in the world, and you know, so I would have expected we would have more empathy for the people in power.
Okay.
I was struck that there isn't hardly anything's come up about innovation. It's as if we know the answers, but we're not trying hard enough. There's nothing about we need some new answers.
Great point. Amazing points. Thank you for that. Just in closing, I think the theme that we're running with is exactly that, which is, or trying to run with, which is, same but harder, same system but better managed, just doesn't seem to cut it. And whether it's innovation in government or innovation in social contract or innovation in political system and innovation in increasing engagement seem to be needed given the scale and speed of the issues at hand. And the potential for these innovation is real. Because if you actually apply to it some of the available solutions or some of the available platforms for these innovations, I think we at least see a few places around the world that are beginning to emerge and beginning to at least target these. So I want to just thank the school for actually allowing us to run this experiment in the spirit of innovation and trying something different. This is super helpful as an input. We will continue to advance our thinking, and hopefully you'll see something. This is not a McKinsey only thing, so you see something out of the group that is convened on this come out in the maybe next 12 to 18 months. So thank you very much.
Tarek, thank you. I think what struck me from all those responses was the sheer, as it were, incoherence of the collectivity, which takes us back to where I started, humility. Right? Fortunately, it's now lunchtime. But also, fortunately, there's a lot to look at during lunch. There's a McKinsey booth. There's a lot of BSG work to look at. So in that spirit of humility, let's try and, whilst we eat lunch, discover something new. Thank you.